You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. Each Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million subunits called Satoshis. If ever that divisibility were inadequate, we're back to that property of money, divisibility. The more productive we become as a global economy, the more purchasing power Bitcoin can contain. And that is unlimited. That is limited only by the amount of capital we can produce. Again, purchasing power versus the supply of money. So the purchasing power of money will continue to increase the more wealth we create through free exchange. So although there's only 21 million Bitcoin, it sounds like, this absolutely scarce number. The amount of purchasing power it can contain is unlimited, right? You can have an unlimited, each Bitcoin, and a lot of people don't know this, so this is probably important. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. Each Bitcoin is divisible into 100 million subunits called Satoshis. If ever that divisibility were inadequate, we're back to that property of money, divisibility. If that were inadequate liquidity to support economic activity, right? If Bitcoin were global money and one Satoshi were worth, a car or something, you can soft fork the code, which is to say it's a simple software update, let's put it that way, to increase the divisibility of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is essentially, and that's one of the reasons it's better than gold, infinitely divisible. Commonly misunderstood thing. People think that if you can increase the divisibility of it, then all of a sudden you're back into inflation, right? But the problem with inflation is the distributive effects of inflation. It's that this group is producing new money for themselves and you're not. When you just increase the divisibility of the money, it's like a stock split.
Equally.
Stock split, right? You had one share of stock, now everyone has 10. No one was diluted. Everyone was just increased the divisibility of their stock. That's essentially what this soft fork would be to Bitcoin divisibility. Now this point, this is very important because people get this confused. The more productive we become as a global economy, the more purchasing power Bitcoin can contain. And that is unlimited. That is limited only by the amount of capital we can produce. Money is a form of capital, but let me distinguish this. Non-money capital. Let's say all the other things, right? The buildings, the stuff, the cars, the factories, the equipment, all of the productive factors in an economy, non-monetary productive factors, which I'm saying loosely is capital here, say non-money capital. Money's a call option on all that, right? It's denominating the value of all these assets that are trading back and forth. But there's also this reservation demand for money. People are just holding money as a call option on all that stuff. So another definition of money, it's an insurance policy on uncertainty. The only reason people are holding money is for its option value. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Therefore, what's the answer to uncertainty? Optionality. If I have no idea what's going to happen, I want the maximum number of options to deal with all possible contingencies. That's what money is. It's another thing money is. So if you think of money, sorry, I'm talking my hands here, fixed supply Bitcoin over here, not changing, right? 21 million, but this capital stock, non-monetary capital growing as we trade and produce more and more, this would imply the purchasing power per Bitcoin is growing, right? It's a call option on more and more stuff. This amount of stuff is limited by us. How much can we innovate? How much can we create? But there's no limitation on Bitcoin itself. And to the point of a Bezos or any individual actor holding an outsized portion of the money supply, that's capitalism. What we have removed, though, is the ability for Bezos, because he has such a large position in the money supply, to change the rules of the monetary network. Right? And that's what the Fed has effectively done. It's like, we hold all the gold. We're going to make the rules. Bretton Woods, 1944. We're going to award ourselves this perpetual free lunch on the productive economy for the right of monopolizing money, which sounds asinine because it is. That's not possible on a Bitcoin standard. So the fixity of rules, the unchangeableness or immutability of rules is the bedrock of peaceful and productive cooperation. And you know this, if you sat down at a table to play poker, and if the hand rankings changed every few hands and one guy was deciding, I mean, he would clean everyone out, and that would be that, and you would never want to play the game again, right? You would want to go and find another game to play. Poker works as a game because the rules don't change. We can formulate strategies and compete with one another in a productive way. But if you want to drive people insane and really create a lot of conflict, just try changing the rules of the game every few hands. Now, this applies to any game, especially money. That's what inflation's doing, right? Nobody knows the rules of the US dollar. How many are in circulation? How many will be in circulation? Who's profiting? We don't even know exactly who the shareholders of the Fed are. What's their dividend? What are their criteria for deciding how many dollars to produce? Who's getting it first? Who's going to be the Fed chair next year? Like there's all of this uncertainty injected into managing the asset that's intended to be an insurance policy against uncertainty, that it's just oxymoronic in a way. And so Bitcoin is another way to look at it, is the most certain form of money we've ever had. And if money is an insurance policy for dealing with uncertainty, you would want maximal credibility in the properties of money to deal with that uncertainty. And that is Bitcoin. And that's why people think you can ignore it or avoid it, or I don't want to hear about it. But it's like, if you prefer wealth to poverty, and if you depend on the marketplace for wealth, which is the only generator of wealth, then you have to pay attention to Bitcoin because it's monetizing.